Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Chair of Rochford District Council, Councillor Joe McPherson, the Vice Chair of the Council, Councillor Simon Wootton, Chief Executive Jonathan Stevenson, and the Reverend Kim Lepley.
Please be seated.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the last meeting of this Council's municipal year. Can I draw everyone's attention, please, to page 3 within the agenda, which sets out details regarding fire safety instructions, the webcasting arrangements, and asks people to turn their mobile phones to silent. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, please leave the building via the nearest exit and make your way to the assembly point located in the Market car park adjacent to the Civic Suite building. Please do not return to the building unless given permission by council staff. Please note that the meeting will be live streamed where the proceedings are capable of repeated viewing. Please also ensure your microphone is switched on when speaking and you speak clearly into the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to now pass over to our Chief Executive, Jonathan Stevenson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the public, officers, unfortunately, since our last council meeting, we sadly lost a member of staff, Peter Miles. So I'd ask you, if possible, to stand and do a minute's silence for Peter Miles. Thank you.
So let us pray. Heavenly God, we do pray for the family of Peter as they mourn their loss. And we pray that they would know your peace and comfort, and that they would not be overwhelmed by their loss, but have faith and trust in you. Amen. So a prayer for tonight's meeting. Almighty God, we bring before you the agenda for tonight's meeting, that we who have been entrusted with the responsibility to govern and make decisions for those who have elected us, that we be guided by the best of motives and with the interests of all for the benefit of all. Give clear minds and the desire to hear all points of view, including those who may be opposed to our own, and an openness of respectful debate. Help us to be gracious and courteous to friend and opponent alike, with a real sense of working together for this district and the areas that are represented by each of the district councillors. At the same time, Lord, we commend for your blessing the work of all the employees of Rochford District Council, who maintain, implement and make possible the words that are debated, discussed and formed into policy. Amen. If you know the words and would like to, I invite you to join with me now in the prayer that Jesus taught us, the family prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So may God enfold you in love, fill you with peace, and lead you in hope. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be with you and all whom you love, this night and forevermore. Amen. Would you please be seated?
Thank you, Kim. Good evening, everyone. Before I start the agenda, from the chair, I am moving item 13 to follow after questions on notice. I hope all members are in agreement with that. I'm quite mindful that we've got quite a few visitors and I don't want to take up any more of their time, and it will be helpful to them. Can everybody hear this okay? Thank you. So, item 1, apologies for absence. I have Councillor Capon, Councillor Carter, Councillor Gooding, Councillor Mason, Councillor Milne, Councillor Sharp and Councillor O'Leary. Are there any other apologies, please, members? No one's indicating. Thank you. Item 2, minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of February 2026. Are the minutes agreed, members? Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? I will begin this with I have other registrable interests in item 12 and 13. Anybody else indicating that they have an interest? Councillor Wootton.
And likewise, Madam Chairman, I have other registrable interests in items 12 and 13.
Thank you. Agenda item 4. Announcements by Chairman of the Council, Chairman of any policy committee or Head of Paid Services. So I will go with my Chairman's announcements first. So good evening, everyone, members and visitors. Since our last full council meeting, I have had the privilege of attending a number of events across the district, each of which has highlighted the dedication, spirit and compassion that make our community so special. Earlier this year, I hosted my Chairman's Charity Quiz Night, which was a wonderful evening full of fun, laughter and friendly competition. Thank you, Councillor Williams, for putting the questions together. We raised over £600 for South East Central Essex Mind, and I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to everyone who attended and supported the event. It was especially nice to see so many members attend, breaking the myth that we don't get on. Your generosity and enthusiasm truly make a difference. May I thank our council staff who made a donation of £487, proceeds from a raffle they held. To mark Young Carers Awareness Day, I attended SCARFed, which is supporting carers and families together. Met with young carers from across the district and even had the opportunity to play crazy golf. I was absolutely useless. Among other organisations I've had the pleasure to meet was the Wakering Memory Hub, providing a monthly session for dementia sufferers and their families. Over the past weeks, I've had the pleasure of attending several charity events across the district, witnessing firsthand the incredible work of volunteers and organisations supporting those in need. This included the annual South East Essex Schools Music Association Festival, where there was 54 infant schools taking part. It was lovely to see and meet amazingly talented young people and some very proud parents. I was honoured to attend the High Sheriff Awards, celebrating the outstanding contribution in the voluntary sector. Several organisations from Rochester District were recipients of awards, including the Barring Bus, Achieve, Thrive, Flourish and Leap Pathways. The annual Rochford Business Awards took place, recognising the achievements and innovation of businesses that continue to strengthen our district. May I take time to thank the sponsors who made the event possible. In March, I was proud to take part in the Commonwealth Day flag raising ceremony. The Commonwealth is a living testament to unity and diversity, connecting 2.5 million people across the globe, grounded in shared values, democracy, human rights, equality and mutual respect, values perhaps more important today than ever. Most recently, our annual Chairman's Civic Dinner was held, and I'm pleased to say it was a tremendous success, with raising over 1,870 for South East Central Essex Mind, supporting vital mental health services in our area. I'm truly grateful to all who joined us and contributed to making the evening both enjoyable and impactful. May I thank Councillor Cross and Councillor Brewer for your kind donations as you were unable to attend. I would like to acknowledge the efforts of councillors, officers, volunteers and community groups in supporting the work of the district. It's encouraging to see the community come together in various initiatives and achievements, and I look forward to continuing this work until my term concludes in May. In closing, I would like to say that as councillors, there is far more that connects us than divides us. Whatever our differences, we are united by a shared commitment to serve our residents and to do our very best for communities. It's been a true honour to serve as your chairman this year, and I'm deeply grateful for the grace, kindness and respect you have shown me throughout. It has meant more than I can fully express. What we have shown together is that even in disagreement, we can listen, we can respect each other, and we can come together with a shared sense of purpose. That is something that our residents can take pride in. As elections approach and pressures grow, it is more important than ever that we lead with civility, compassion and integrity, setting the tone for the communities that we represent. To those members who are stepping down, thank you for your dedication and service. You leave with our gratitude and respect. And to those standing again, I wish you all the very best. Thank you. Does the Leader of the Council wish to make any announcements? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As we reach the conclusion of the council year, I want to take a moment to reflect on what has been a truly strong and productive time for Rochford District Council. 2025 has been defined by hard work, challenge and a shared commitment to delivering for our residents, and I believe we have done exactly that. Over the past 12 months, we've delivered on key priorities. We've set out major investment into our leisure centres, successfully reopened the Freight House with works planned to start imminently to secure its future for generations to come. We launched our new neighbourhood team, introduced a free parking trial, updated our housing policy to put local people first, and continue to strengthen support for our charity and voluntary sector, who are absolutely integral to the fabric of Rochford. I firmly believe we have strengthened community engagement and improved the resilience of our local economy through our dedicated economic development team. Alongside that, we have progressed our local plan at pace, ensuring we're in a position to defend our district. We developed a government-compliant business case, Best for Essex, for local government reorganisation, with a decision expected imminently, in fact, as soon as tomorrow morning. These are not small achievements. These are as a result of clear leadership, strong partnership working, and a council that is focused on delivery. And hot off the press, my thanks to Councillor Webb for his support in securing town rangers for Rayleigh, something that has been delivered at pace because of need. Leading a cross-party administration has allowed me to keep community at the heart of our decisions, many of which have been supported unanimously. That, for me, is proof that we are getting it right for Rochford. That spirit of cooperation has enabled us to face challenges head-on and make decisions in the best interest of the district, delivering a balanced budget with no votes against, the first time I can find on record, is a significant achievement and one that gives collective ownership of our direction as we move towards LGR. And I want to thank all members of this chamber for that. I also want to thank our stakeholders, our businesses, community groups and voluntary organisations who play such a vital role in our shared success. And of course, our officers. I've said it before and I will say it again. We have some of the best officers in the country here in the district. Their professionalism and dedication underpin everything we achieve, and I sincerely hope many of them continue to represent Rochford as part of any new authority. And I would like to pay a special thanks to Kirsty Sims, who without I would not be able to work as efficiently as I do. As we wait the outcome of LGR, I'm genuinely proud that this council did not sit back and wait to be shaped by others or passively absorbed by larger areas. We stood up, we put forward our own proposal, and we ensured Rochford has a voice. Whatever the outcome, members and officers across the council have worked hard to set clear priorities and leave a lasting legacy for our district. And that's why I can say with confidence, we leave both this council and our district in a strong position. Our foundations are solid, our community spirit is vibrant, and we remain debt-free, something very few councils across the country can say. Chair, thank you for guiding this chamber through what have at times been lively debates, always with fairness and professionalism. I'm proud that throughout we have conducted ourselves with respect, something I know our residents value. Finally, as some members step down and choose not to stand again, I want to place on record my sincere thanks for your service. Your contribution has made a lasting difference. And in particular, I want to thank Councillor John Mason, who has given over 4 decades of his life to public service, including 2 here at Rochford. He has been an outstanding deputy to me this past year, and I'm proud to say that despite the odds, he has become a friend and a mentor, and I'm incredibly grateful for his support. To those standing again, myself included, I wish you all the very best of luck, because whatever our political differences, we are all united in one purpose, to serve Rochford and deliver for our residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does the Head of Paid Services wish to make any announcements?
Madam Chairman, no further announcements. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the Chairman of any policy committees or the Audit and Governance Committee wish to make any announcements? Nobody's indicating. Thank you. So moving on with the agenda. Item 5, public questions and member questions on notice. We've received no public questions. We've received 2 questions from members of the council, which are set out on pages 15 and 16 of the agenda. Question 1 is from Councillor Mrs V Wilson to Councillor Mrs Danielle Belton, Leader of the Council. Councillor Mrs Wilson, may I ask you to read out your question, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As you said, my question is to Councillor Belton. As leader of this council, just to avoid any doubt, please will you inform me as to what progress has been made since the Corporate Peer Challenge was undertaken around Recommendation 6, which says, the whole council needs to take a stronger strategic leadership of place by continuing to develop at pace a local plan to ensure development is identified in the right locations with associated infrastructure, which in turn will reduce the risk of speculative development. So my question is, please, if you could inform me of the progress made regarding Recommendation 6, including the detail of when action was taken, to inform understanding about what progress has been made and when on this important topic. Have we worked at pace as recommended? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Wilson. Councillor Mrs Belton, thank you.
Thank you. And if I can start with the last part of the question and say, yes, I am pleased to say that our administration has worked at pace. We have kept to the ambitious timetable that was set January of last year to ensure that we will be able to submit a plan later this year to avoid having to start the whole process again. We are currently in the Reg 18 stage of that project, a vital part that actually concludes at midnight this evening. It was clear that previously there was a lack of appetite to get some of the work done by the former administration, allowing months to pass without setting any real direction or strategy. This pondering, along with the added pressures of government by increasing our housing targets to the ridiculous and undeliverable 15,000 homes, has meant we have had to work at pace and not skip a beat, despite external distractions and pressures. Not only has this work continued at a speed that has been difficult at times and officers have struggled to keep up with, we have continued to go further to defend our district. We haven't simply sucked up the new and unfair housing targets that came into place in July 2024. We are finding legitimate ways to challenge them and to fight for fairer policy in Rochford and beyond to protect as much of our precious green belt as possible, because once it's gone, it's gone. To do this, we have increased resource, we have improved communications, and we have engaged our residents like never before. Seeing so many pockets of our community come together to have their say on what makes our district so special is amazing to see. And on that note, anyone watching at home or indeed in the chamber this evening, if you haven't already done so, please provide a response to the Reg 18 consultation by midnight tonight, because we are stronger together. So in summary, we are on track. As long as everybody continues to deliver this work post-May, we will meet a December deadline that gives this district its defence. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Wilson, do you have a supplementary question?
No, Chair, that was a full response made to me, so thank you. No further question.
Thank you. Just to remind everybody, again, Regulation 18 concludes tonight at midnight. Question 2 is from Councillor Steptoe to, again, Councillor Mrs Belton, Leader of the Council. Councillor Steptoe, may I ask you to read out your question?
Thank you, Chairman. RDC has written to the government raising several issues around the ambiguity of terms and phrases within the revised NPPF, National Planning Policy Framework. These have included, but not limited to, questions in relation to green belt, grey belt, the term severe when assessing effects on our road network, and housing targets. What has the response been from government?
Councillor Mrs Belton.
Thank you for the question. Yes, supported by colleagues, in particular Councillor Eaves and Councillor Wootton, I've written a number of letters to government on the issues which matter most to residents where planning is concerned and where we believe government are being intentionally vague. The responses where they have been received so far have been published on the Council's website. I've also circulated information to members via the weekly update and have posted them on social media. We're still awaiting some responses. The initial tone from government was very much about hitting targets, but we have seen a gradual weakening in that resolve, with more emphasis on local elected officials making decisions that are right for the area and the importance of local evidence. This is why it is so important that everyone has their say to ensure we submit a plan rooted in local evidence and based on local need. None of us believe 15,000 homes are achievable or indeed needed, and we have refuted the term grey belt from the initial consultation. Indeed, I submitted a response to government stating exactly that. We aren't writing letters because we have nothing better to do. We are communicating in order to build a paper trail and give this district the best defence in the months and years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Belton. Councillor Steptoe, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Can I have the assurance of the Leader and that the administration will continue to challenge the government when they're making changes to the NPPF, which seem to be moving the goalposts every day? In particular, the ridiculous housing numbers that they are requiring.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Belton, can I ask you to respond? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Steptoe. I can only speak to this administration and the fact that we will keep fighting until the very last day that we can do. I would hope that this council carries on that approach as we move forward into the next municipal year, because it's absolutely vital that we are heard and we continue to challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, members, we are going to move to item 13 in the agenda. Now, I'm going to remind members that if any member wishes to discuss anything relating to Appendix A for this item, I will need to move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting on the grounds that there would likely be a disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 1, 3 and 5 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. Now, to avoid a member straying into Appendix A, is there, because I don't want these people to have wasted their time coming out tonight, if there is any member who thinks they are going to have a question or it could stray into it, if you would like to raise your hand, I will take your questions last, so that then we can ask the members after the full debate. We'll go to those questions, and I will have to ask them to leave. Does anybody think that they're going to ask a question about Appendix A? No one's indicating. Brilliant. Right. Thank you, members. Now, before I invite the Leader of the Council to introduce this report, I am going to read a statement from myself. There's been a lot of interest in this item raised publicly, yet not one member has come direct to me to ask me any questions. Perhaps they could have asked, why is there a need for a change of governance? Perhaps they could have asked, what impact would this have? Or perhaps more importantly, they could have asked what impact it would have if nothing was done. I will explain the reasoning as best I can in layman's terms. As the paper says, the trust was set up in 1964. So, in theory, you can take your pick on which party you wish to blame between then and now for where we are. Each year, new trustees are appointed not through an AGM or through their choice to volunteer as a trustee, but purely and only because of the office that they hold. The question has been raised year on year to the legality of this process. With credit to the last chairman, it was requested that legal advice was sought. The legal advice included: the current governing document is no longer fit for purpose, and it does not align with modern charity law. The trustees' roles are deemed ex officio by virtue of the individual's office. This means year on year, the newly elected chairman, vice chairman, and chairman of Rayleigh Town Council have become trustees through no choice of their own, purely down to their official role. This constant annual change of trusteeship is not good for governance, and it is not recommended by the Charities Commission. The legal advice encompassed in the paper tonight, with the recommendation for the sole custodian to be Rochford District Council, will provide long-term protection for the Dutch cottage, including how this beloved asset is used. Referring to the content of the report, there is a heading, Financial Implications. The Dutch Cottage Trust has very limited income. Note that word, very limited. The cost of maintenance, especially due to the unique and historic nature of the property, means the trust is no longer able to safely or responsibly meet its obligations as a landlord. Trustees are duty bound to consider advice they are given and act in the best interest of the trust. Trustees are also potentially personally liable if they do not follow. But in parallel, it was planned for this report to be presented to this meeting with the proposals to the change of governance. The current governance is not fit for purpose. It does not provide security for the future of the Dutch cottage. The proposed changes to the governance do provide that security. Now, from a personal perspective, this issue has been raised by trustees over several years, never being addressed as there was always a constant change of trustees. I have less than 6 weeks left of my chairmanship, at which time this is not my problem. I could have simply let it roll again. Taking action now is the only option before we move into yet another change of trusteeship. People new to the role, where this change of governance could be stalled for another year. There is, of course, an additional risk presented by local government reorganisation, which means that we must act now to protect this valuable asset. I welcome the action plan and the support which is being proposed by the Council. Should the recommendations be accepted tonight, then Rochford Council will become the sole custodian, placing the Dutch cottage in a safer position and a safer place for those who benefit from it. I will now pass over to the Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I formally introduce the report, I want to make a few points. Firstly, the current tenant of the Dutch cottage has not been served an eviction notice. She had been advised of the likelihood and potential timescales of that happening, along with options available to her. This information was set out on behalf of the Trust following legal advice. The primary object of the Dutch cottage in the Trust deed is to maintain the culture and heritage that the Dutch cottage brings to the district of Rochford. The Management Committee role is to preserve the cottage in its present form as a traditional Dutch cottage for the benefit of the people of the district of Rochford. Last year, the cottage only had 28 visitors, meaning the Trust is barely meeting its objectives. Tonight's meeting and recommendations are about changing the governance of the Dutch Cottage Trust to allow alternative options to be considered. The Trust, or indeed officers on behalf of the Trust, could not have considered those alternatives or discussed them with the tenant under the current structure. This report is not and was never about eviction. It is about governance and providing security for the cottage and all those associated with it. It is extremely sad that some individuals have tried to turn this delicate and extremely complicated issue into a political circus, no doubt encouraged by the upcoming elections. It seems instead of asking questions or requesting a briefing, it was easier to whip up a storm online and cause distress, which is helpful for no one, not least the tenant at the heart of this. This report sets out the findings of the review of the Dutch Cottage Trust and the steps needed to secure the long-term protection and public benefit of one of our district's most historic assets. The review has made clear that the current governance arrangements are outdated, unclear, and do not meet modern standards of charity governance. The Trust has reached a point where the trustees cannot reasonably discharge their responsibilities without additional support. By stepping in and allocating funding, the Council is supporting trustees in a position they now find themselves in. This is not about replacing them, it's about ensuring they have the support and resources they need to fulfil the Trust's charitable purpose. The trustees have acted appropriately by raising concerns, and this Council is acting responsibly by responding to those concerns with practical, proportionate support. Moving to a corporate trustee model gives stability, continuity, and the governance strength needed for such a sensitive heritage asset. As corporate trustee, the Council will be able to properly manage the Trust, ensure compliance with the charity law, and protect the cottage for future generations. Importantly, becoming sole corporate trustee allows the Council to fully review and reassess all the options previously considered by the Trust, this time with the benefit of proper governance, professional advice, and financial clarity. We will bring back a clear, evidence-based decision for the future of Dutch Cottage that ensures its protection and continues to deliver public benefit. The Dutch cottage must be preserved for the benefit of the people of Rochford, as required by the Trust governing document. To support the trustees and allow the Council to step into this role effectively, it is recommended that Council allocates up to £140,000 in 26-27 for essential capital works and for procuring a management firm to manage the property on behalf of the Trust. Given the urgent needs identified and the lack of alternative funding sources, this budget will need to be funded from general reserves. The cottage requires essential capital works to address safety, compliance and heritage conservation issues. These are unavoidable obligations for any landlord of a Grade 2 listed building. Professional management support is necessary to ensure the Trust meets its legal duties, particularly with upcoming changes to landlord legislation and the complexities of managing a listed thatched building. Today's decision will ensure the cottage is safe, legally compliant, financially supported and preserved for the public good. They will provide the governance strength the Trust has lacked, protect the Council from unmanaged risk and ensure the long-term future of this unique heritage asset. I'm therefore moving an amendment to add a 6th recommendation to the report, that Council approves the allocation of £140,000 in 26-27 financial year to be funded from general reserves to deliver essential capital works at the Dutch Cottage and to procure a specialist property management firm to manage the Dutch Cottage on behalf of the Trust, with delegated authority to the Director of Assets and Investment in consultation with the Section 151 officer and monitoring officer to take all necessary steps to implement this decision on behalf of the Trust. This figure is based on the current 5-year programme we have for the building and also includes an estimated $38,400 for annual specialist property management. As with everything, if we don't need the funding, we won't draw down on it. I've confirmed with the finance team that this is appropriate for year 1, with future obligations being considered at the appropriate time. I'm therefore happy to move the 6 recommendations as set out in the report and want to make it clear that without supporting these recommendations, the property cannot act with an occupant in it. This is about a change in governance and the financial support needed to give us options to review. Thank you, Chairman.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Mrs Wilson. Would you like to speak on the item or reserve your right?
I'd like to reserve my right, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Belton, would you mind reading your supplementary recommendation again whilst officers pass this out, please? Thank you.
That Council approves the allocation of up to £140,000 in the 2026-27 financial year to be funded from general reserves to deliver essential capital works at the Dutch Cottage and to procure a specialist property management firm to manage the property on behalf of the Dutch Cottage Trust, with delegated authority to the Director of Assets and Investment in consultation with the Section 151 officer and monitoring officer to take all necessary steps to implement this decision on behalf of the Trust.
Thank you. Members, we have a further recommendation added to the recommendations that are already set out on page 13 and 14 that is coming round for you to read, and I will now like to open up this item for debate. If anybody would like to speak on it, please indicate. Councillor Mr Wilson, I was just checking you weren't handing out paper.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm a little concerned about the timing of this report that's been presented to Council today, because the Burkitt's report has been in the Council's possession since November last year, and we've had other full Council meetings. So I wonder, why have we had to wait to the end of the municipal year before bringing this forward if it's been so urgent?
I will come back on that one, and if officers need any more, they will. As a trustee, by default, as you already know now, it was just the additional work, all that information that came back, and for the officers to put it out in plain English for all of us to go through and read. Would you like to add anything else to that, Phoebe? No? Hopefully that answers your question.
It answers it, but it's not the answer I really wanted, because if this is urgent and we've had this since November, why have we only waited to this meeting? Because, as I say, we've had other full council meetings when this could have been actioned, and I don't believe it takes that long to write the report. Thank you, Chair.
I think the urgency of this now, as opposed to rolling forward as it has done, and I went back through the previous AGMs, and you can have a look as well when it was first raised by previous co-opted trustees. We are now near where there will be a new set of trustees, and we have LGR, and we don't really know how that would impact it. The next on my list is Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think we should rush this issue, especially in view of the clear Sorry, what's funny? Anyway, seem to be getting a few laughs anyway. Okay. It's not a funny matter, actually. We're talking about a young person's livelihood here, and it's a very emotive issue, certainly for her.
Councillor Cross, we're talking on the governance at the moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, well, the governance of the Dutch cottage is obviously what we're talking about, and residents want the current arrangements to remain. A tenanted property plus access for the public by prior appointment. Heritage experts have stated that to remove residential tenancy and keep the building empty will lead to deterioration of the property. If we give ourselves a little more time, check whether there are volunteers with experience who could offer continuity in trusteeship, rather than relying solely on already overburdened councillors, then we could have the Dutch Cottage Trust run on normal charitable terms. If necessary, the Trust could obtain funding from the likes of the Architectural Heritage Fund. At present, we don't even ask visitors for a donation. There is also the option mentioned in the Finchfield Trust item of establishing a completely independent charitable trust body. This might not have been appropriate for Finchfield, but might be good for the Dutch cottage. I believe there are local people with the necessary skills to form such an organisation. Let's take the time needed to properly explore these options. As described elsewhere within tonight's agenda, we will be charged with administration and enforcement of the Renters' Rights Act. Our council must not be seen to rush through a no-fault eviction of a loyal tenant to take advantage of a Section 21 notice just before the 1st of May
We're not talking on that,
deadline.
we're talking on the governance. And I will come back to you on one of the things that you raised. You raised about going for funding to historic architects, was it that you mentioned? Part of this...
Heritage experts.
Yep, and if you listen to my opening statement and read the papers, in the current stance that it is, the governance is not fit for purpose. Therefore, a funder would not be giving us money. By changing this governance, then they could apply for money.
Okay, right. Well, I'd like to move a motion that this matter be deferred for further consultation with potential trustees, pending receipt of legal advice and regarding LGR for the Dutch Cottage Trust and its assets.
Do you have a seconder for that motion, please?
I'd like to second that, please, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor, Mrs. Brewer. So, if you could write that motion, read that motion out again, please, Councillor Cross, so the officers can make a note of it.
I move that this matter be deferred for further consultation with potential trustees, pending receipt of legal advice and regarding LGR for the Dutch Cottage Trust and its assets.
Okay, members, you have that motion on the floor. we're going to the vote. So if everybody in favour?
Madam Chair, aren't we speaking to the amendment to the motion?
It's a motion to defer, Councillor Newport. So as a procedural motion, we will vote on it. It's not for debate because it's literally asking to defer. Are you okay with that? Yeah. What?
Can I request a recorded vote, please, Chair?
And who is standing with you, please? That's fine, Councillor Cross, if you'd like to take a seat. Okay, members, your name will be called out. Obviously, the officer will start with ourselves, and if you can then vote accordingly, yes, or for or against.
Thank you, Chairman. So, Councillor McPherson.
I will not vote on this item, thank you.
Councillor Wootton.
And likewise, I will not be voting on this item.
Councillor Belton.
Against deferral.
Councillor Booth.
Against further delay.
Councillor Mrs Brewer.
For, please.
Councillor Constable.
Against.
Councillor Cross.
For.
Councillor FD.
Against.
Councillor Eaves.
Against.
Councillor Hoy.
For.
Councillor Knight.
For.
Councillor Lambourne.
Abstain.
Councillor Linden.
Against.
Councillor Miss Marriott.
Against.
Councillor Myers.
Against.
Councillor J Newport. Councillor L Newport. Councillor S.J. Page.
Against any further delay, please.
Councillor P. Shaw.
Against.
Councillor Mrs. L. Shaw.
Against.
Councillor Mrs. Squires Coleman.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Stanley. Councillor Steptoe.
Against.
Councillor Sutton.
For.
Councillor Ward.
Against.
Councillor Webb.
Against.
Councillor Williams.
Against deferral.
Councillor S. Wilson.
For.
Councillor I. Wilson.
Against.
And Councillor Mrs. V. Wilson.
Against.
Thank you.
So members, that is 18 for, 9 against the deferral, 9 for the deferral, sorry, and 2 not voted. Sorry, would you like me to say that again because I was quite tired. So against the deferral, 18, for the deferral, 9, not voting, 2, and 1 abstention. So members, that motion for deferral is lost, and I am opening up the matter for debate again, and over to Councillor Hoy, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The Chairman does know that I was quite interested in the Dutch Cottage as well as Finchfield Trust during our 2 years of administration, and I spoke with the former Chair of the Council, Jack Lawman, about this when he was chair of the council and also ultimately chair of the Dutch Cottage and Filchfield Trust because of that, asking for my help because of the worries over governance of both of them. I too had concerns over the governance, and I spent quite a lot of time with a number of officers and also the chair, and ultimately you when you were chair and previous chairs, about the Dutch Cottage in particular and about those concerns. So I have some problems though, because ultimately I believe that the governance...
Excuse me, Madam Chair, the audience behind me can't hear Councillor Hoy. Thank you. Could you just speak nearer the mic, please?
No, I can't speak nearer the mic. I can do the best I can, but I can't bend over. My back will hurt. So
I think
we have terrible mics in this building, and I think that's probably something that needs to be sorted out.
Yeah, I do not worry, Councillor Hoy. I can hear you, and I'm sure that people will be able to hear back on the recording.
Yeah, I'll try and speak louder. So I have some sympathy with some of the changes. I agree they should be in place. However, some of the changes that this governance review has come forward with, I think I cannot support. Therefore, I have problems with it. I think a deferral would have been the right action at this point to get a lot of these sorted out, and also it's a really odd thing to say. In many ways, it seems rushed. In other ways, it's been hanging around because this report, as Councillor Wilson said, has been here since, I think you made a mistake in last year, it was 2024, the Burkitt's report came out. So it's been around a long time, but it feels rushed to us because a lot of people have just learnt about it now. I also have a problem with the funding something £140,000 just like that out of thin air. We were accused of doing something similar with a budget amendment that I seconded, and I was told by then the administration that it was far too short a notice period to decide on changes in funding, but we're now expected to be able to do this and understand without the Section 151 officer here that I can see to explain to us what this means, without him saying to what it means. However, on the other hand, because we like other hands, I'm aware that the deed of trust states that work to the Dutch Cottage should be funded out of our general funds anyway. But this just seems very put together at the last minute, and I'm struggling to understand how I can support this at this point. So I'm not sure if anyone who's speaking can help me at all.
I'll come back on a couple of points, Councillor Hoy. It may seem rushed, but I've attended the meetings, and there's been quite a few since the report came through, and it took a long time to go through those. And just because there has been some concern around the new renters bill, this piece of work was started long before then. So it isn't a rushed piece of work. It's just that now the time is quite close to the new year, and that would mean new trustees coming in, and also the fear of LGR and how that will impact. Thank you. Councillor Marriott, please.
Chairman, I welcome. Chairman, I welcome the additional £140,000 that is being proposed tonight. But going forward, I think that if a new governance goes through, that it would be good if that would facilitate a possibility of a Friends of the Dutch Cottage grouping, where all these interested residents that have kindly come along tonight to show their support on this issue, some of them could perhaps get together, and as Councillor Cross mentioned in his comments, various people could come together with their expertise and work hand in hand with the council, or whatever happens under LGR, to keep this asset at the much loved asset that it is in Rayleigh. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Newport.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I support protecting the Dutch cottage. It was bought with residents' money and it was gifted by the people of Rayleigh, and it does deserve proper stewardship. My concern, though, is whether this proposal actually delivers that, because we've heard a lot about protecting assets, and over the course of this municipal year, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of actions taken on trying to retain our assets going forward into LGR. So we're being asked here to make Rochford District Council the sole corporate trustee of the Dutch Cottage Trust. And the report acknowledges that the current governance is outdated and creates risks, and I fully accept that. But the solution proposed creates a different risk, and the report barely addresses that risk. What happens to this trust when the council ceases to exist in 2028? We don't know the outcome of LGR and who we're going to be with. It could be a 3 model. It could be a 1 model. It could be someone in the north of the county in charge of a council, a leader of a council, and a council running this area, and they don't know anything about that Dutch cottage. And will that be a priority for them? Local government reorganisation, it's not a distant possibility, it's confirmed, and this council will be abolished. The report doesn't explain what becomes of that trustee role at that point, and whether it transfers automatically, whether it requires Charity Commission approval, whether there's a period where the trust effectively has no functioning trustee at all. It's not a minor detail, but it's central whether this recommendation actually protects the asset. The Declaration of Trust was created in 1964 precisely because the original municipal ownership wasn't considered sufficient protection. But right now, we're going to be repeating that mistake because this council only has a 2-year shelf life. If we're going to reform the trust, we need to do it properly, and that means establishing a genuinely independent charitable structure capable of surviving reorganisation, or getting explicit assurance from the Charity Commission and legal counsel about how the trustee role transfers to any successor authority before we vote today and not afterwards. Delegating that question to officers in consultation to the monitoring officer, as per R2.5, isn't really good enough. Council should not be approving these recommendations without knowing the answer. Also, I just want to touch on this further amendment. And once again, and the leader does know this, and it's one of my real pet hates, is here we are again just handing it off to officers with no real member oversight. We're just passing this as another delegation. And I think we're all in this chamber to make decisions, and that's where these decisions should come back to. So I hope the leader will take that on board and make a further amendment to this, that this, if this does go forward, that it's not just delegated to officers, but also has member oversight with it. Thank you.
Oh, there was a lot there, wasn't there, to take in. Just going back to the fact that you want to, similar to Councillor Cross, delay this or slow this down. Councillor Hoy mentioned when Councillor Lawman was chairman. How many years ago was that? If this keeps just getting talked about, it is not going to happen. And money will not be invested into that property that needs to be invested in it. As for what happens with when it comes to LGR, I don't know. But I do know that our roles won't be there either. So it's not going to be in any worse place with a sole custodian. Leanne, did you want to come back with anything?
Only just to add what you just said at the end of that, which is it's still a trust, so that protection around it being a trust will still remain even as we go into LGR. And trusts are not easy things to remove, so there is an element of protection.
Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Chair.
Since 1964, when the cottage was handed to the Rayleigh District Council,
Rayleigh Rural District.
Rayleigh Rural Council, sorry.
Urban, there we go.
Rayleigh Rural Council.
There's a history lesson.
This has become something for the residents that partake in contributing to its upkeep. And from that time, the money's been coming in, very dribs and drabs, but nevertheless the money's been coming in with a contribution by the council of £2,000. Since 2015, I think it is, or 2016, the council has decided not to invest in that from the fund that they are supposed to be delivering from. At which point, and I say this, to keep a property going, you have to invest money or put money into it. The council has not put any money into it as such from general reserves. So therefore, it has become dilapidated a little bit. Not to the extent where it's not habitable, but there are things that need to be done to bring it up to a standard. Double glazing, a new roof, that's the outer roof, not the inner roof. And such like. Just to bring it up to standard, which everybody understands that, you know, we need to bring it from a C to from a D to a C, or from an E to a C, or whatever the case is. And those
members, please, politeness.
Thank you. And those things I do understand we need to invest. So my question is the council going to invest not only this 140,000, is that for 5 years or is that per annum? And is that going to keep the Dutch cottage in good repair for the future and to keep it as a occupied premises rather than leave it empty as we stand? Thank you.
I think you've just almost answered your own question, Councillor Stanley, and are on board with this suggestion, because you have said the council has not invested over the past years. I can do nothing about that. You can't. But we have here a recommendation for 140,000 that will help bring that property back into good use. You can.
Thank you, Chair. When you say back into use, do you mean occupied or back into use for exhibitions and such like?
We haven't even had a look at that, have we? Until, has this been approved? And then that would be the sort of work going forward, wouldn't it? Okay. Councillor Mrs Newport.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of points really for clarification. Can you confirm the Chair of the National Trust is still a trustee, as we understand that they've resigned? Also, you alluded to the council as the trustee would, the charity trust would be the landlord. So is it the charity trust that's going to be the landlord, or is it the council that will be the landlord going forward? And with all the talk about LGR, would it not be best suited to ask the town council if they would be interested in protecting the asset and taking the asset on going forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Newport. I know that Councillor Mrs Belton's going to sum up shortly, which will answer most of your questions. To my knowledge, only because I saw the, obviously, the member from the National Trust has resigned shortly after they received the first legal advice, because I believe they were concerned about their liability. Thank you. Any other members wish to speak? Councillor Ward.
Thank you very much, Chairman, fellow councillors. We all love the Dutch cottage. It's more than bricks, it's history. community, and Faye's been helping to keep that alive. Welcoming people in, sharing the stories. We're not here to see her go. The Trust's got real problems. The chairs change every year with no continuity. Trustees should not be put in a position that risks their own finances on repairs and charges, especially when they did not ask to take on the role. And everything takes longer than it should because of the outdated governance around it. In 2028, Rochford District Council morphs into a new multi-council unitary, whatever that's going to be. The Trust's role will almost certainly vanish. So let's think ahead. If we shift the governance tonight, making Rochford District Council as sole trustee, locking in a smooth handover and the safeguarding of this important part of the town's heritage. Now, come on, let's make it work together. Thank you.
Any other members wishing to speak on this item? I will come back to you, Councillor Cross. Obviously, that's my decision. So, yeah, come forward. Councillor Cross, I will let you speak again.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Really appreciate it. As you, by virtue of your role, and Councillor Wootton, by virtue of his role, are the current trustees of the Dutch Cottage, will you withdraw the threat of Section 21 eviction?
Councillor Cross, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about
well,
the
I'm
governance.
talking about, Madam
Yeah,
Chair.
and as I said at the start, we could talk about that, but we could have to ask our guests to leave because there is exempt matters in there. And I'm not referring to the person's name or anything like that. There's other exempt matters in that item. Any other member wish to speak on this item, which is around the governance and only the governance? Then I'm going to... I'm going to come back to Councillor Mrs Wilson because you reserved your right to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say with everything I've heard this evening that actually I firmly believe recommendation 1 to recommendation 6 needs to go through because by securing the trusteeship of the Dutch Cottage, we are securing the future of the Dutch Cottage too. And I think without doubt, everyone in that room will, in this room will absolutely be behind that. So thank you, Chair. I thoroughly support these recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Wilson. Councillor Mrs Belton, I'd like you to now sum up, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I will do my best to cover off all of the items that I think remain unanswered. First off, anyone that's read the reports and understands this process would recognise that deferral leaves the tenant in a situation where ultimately there would be no other option but eviction because the trusts, under the trustee modelship and the legal advice that's been given, said that was the only option. That is why we are here. That is why these recommendations have come forward. If we don't do this tonight, there is no alternative because the advice is that the trustees cannot remain on as a landlord. This is about protecting the cottage and protecting the tenant. And I truly believe that people have either misunderstood the report and not asked the right questions or are just trying to turn this into something it never was and never should have been. Now, I'm going to just try and cover off a really few quick points. LGR is coming. We know that. It's coming in the morning. And come September, structural change order comes as well, which makes all decision-making that much more harder. We need to get the governance done now. This is not an easy thing to have done. We could have tried to kick this into the long grass like has happened before. I sometimes think the front row forget they've been in charge of this council for a couple of years and could have allocated money, could have made decisions and could have took the tough choices. They haven't. We're getting it done now to ensure that the cottage and the tenant is safe. Now, come September, decisions will be more...
Members, no. Sorry. When they were spatting at you, I asked them to be quiet. The same happens.
Thank you, Chairman. We are doing this work now because it is necessary. It is necessary because we have a change of trusteeship due imminently. We have LGR coming. We have a tenant that is currently in limbo and probably extremely, extremely stressed. We need to provide security. We don't have all the answers, nobody does. But the governance tonight is about changing it so that the officers can refer back to all of the things that have previously been looked at under the guise of a corporate trusteeship with a budget. That is what they did not have yesterday. That is why those decisions and those conversations couldn't have happened yesterday. If we get these 6 recommendations done tonight, those conversations can begin. The £140,000, it's not for double glazing, I'm afraid, Councillor Stanley, but it is for 5 years' worth of plans. There's a 5-year plan that's been referred to and a budget to deal with the management, because this is a very, very unique situation. This is not a 2 up, 2 down terraced house. This is a unique piece of Rochford's history and we need to get it right, and that is worth investing in. Yes, it's a big lump of taxpayers' money, but it's for the whole district. And actually, if we were to pay a caretaker to live in there, what might that cost us? So I think it's money well spent, and we can all agree that right now, this is an option that gives us some time. It gives everybody some time to reflect and to look at what options there really are for the safeguarding of the asset and to meet the charitable trust, to get those numbers up. 28 people visiting the Dutch cottage is a crying shame. It's an amazing piece of history in our area. And I'm sure the tenant, Faye, would love to show more people around given the opportunity. I know how passionate she is. Now, budget's being taken on the night. Yes, I don't like to bring forward motions that quickly off the cuff. I would have much preferred to share it all with you earlier, but this has been a moving feast, because had the tenant said when she was offered an alternative, actually that suits me, that works, we wouldn't need to be going through so much of this because the cost would be much less. But we are where we are, and it's about now creating options and working in the best interests of everybody. I think most of the things have been covered one way or another. Ultimately, I stand firm in that we are doing what is right for the cottage, the community, the tenant, and the heritage of this town. So I'm happy to move the 6 recommendations, and I hope those people that have read and understood the report support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, I'm going to ask, are we agreed to take all recommendations en bloc? No. Okay. Is there any that you would like to take en bloc, Councillor Newport? Okay, members, we're going to vote for recommendations 1 to 5 en bloc, which are on page 13 and 14 of your papers. I'm not sure if our guests attending have got copies of papers, so I'm quite happy if you'll bear with me to read through them as fast as I can. If I get a nod from people, yes, right. Okay, so Recommendation 1, that the Council agrees to become the sole corporate trustee of the Dutch cottage for the reasons detailed in the report in Appendix A. Recommendation 2, that the Council delegates authority to the Director of Assets and Investments in consultation with the Monitoring Officer and Section 151 Officer to prepare a revised trust deed, including removal of obsolete organisations, clarification of trustee responsibilities, and establishment of a compliant decision-making and reporting framework to be approved by Council at a future meeting, subject to Charity Commission approval. Recommendation 3, that the Council agrees to update its constitution and relevant committee terms of reference to reflect its new role as sole trustee, including arrangements for decision-making and reporting. Recommendation 4, that the Council notes the significant governance, financial, legal and safeguarding risks identified in the review and endorses the implementation of an action plan included in the exempt Appendix A to regulise the Trust's operations. Recommendation 5, that the Council delegates authority to the Director of Assets and Investment in consultation with the Monitoring Officer and the Section 151 Officer to take all steps necessary to implement these decisions, including engagement with the Charity Commission, the tenant, heritage stakeholders and the public. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay. Yep. If you'd like to lower your hands, please. All those against? Thank you, members. And any abstentions?
Chairman, may I have my vote recorded as being against?
And 2 no votes. Thank you. Sorry, I can't. Okay, members, so that is 19 for, 8 against, 1 abstention and 2 not vote. Thank you, members. 1 to 5 recommendations are carried. Okay, so now we have recommendation 6. I will read this out, members. That the Council approves the allocation of up to £140,000 in the 2026-27 financial year to be funded from general reserves to deliver essential capital works at the Dutch Cottage and to procure a specialist property management firm to manage the property on behalf of the Dutch Cottage Trust, with delegated authority to the Director of Assets and Investment in consultation with the Section 151 officer and monitoring officer to take all necessary steps to implement this decision on behalf of the Trust. All those in favour, please. Thank you, members. All those against? Abstentions? Thank you, members. Members, that is 19 for the recommendation, none against, 9 abstentions and 2 no voting. Thank you, members. That, members, concludes item 13. We will now go back to the agenda item. Members of the public, it's completely up to you if you want to stay or take your leave. Thank you. And thank you all for being so patient with us. Okay, members. We are back to item 6, appointment of a 2-tier chief officer. I would like to remind members that if any member wishes to discuss anything in relation to Appendix A for this item, I will need to move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting on the grounds that there could likely be a disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 1 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. Members, the report begins on page 17 of the agenda. I would like to invite the Vice Chair of the Senior Appoints Disciplinary Joint Committee, Councillor Mrs Wilson, to introduce the report and move the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this report is self-explanatory. It recommends appointment of the Strategic Director, a one-team appointment which requires approval of both this Council and of Brentwood Borough Council. Having attended the recruitment process, I can recommend to Council that this appointment, details of which are set out in Appendix A, I ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mrs Wilson. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Wotton. Would you like to speak or reserve your right?
I'll reserve my right if I may, please, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. May I open up the item for debate? Members, would anybody like to speak on this item? Councillor Hoy.
Probably just a very procedural question. Why are we not naming the strategic director in R1, but we name the director in R3?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. With regard to that, procedure-wise, that appointment can be made by the head of paid service, so that's been named in the report because the appointment's actually taken place. So that name is mentioned in the report. Obviously, this decision is a decision of council. Last night, Brentwood did make a decision to appoint, and tonight there's the recommendation for you to appoint, and obviously that name will then be shared if you make that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully that answers the question, Councillor Hoy. Thank you. Anybody else wishes to speak? Yes, Councillor Mrs Belton.
Just to say that I'm really pleased this has come forward. Yet again, it's something else that needed to happen in a timely fashion because of LGR and what's coming, and to show the respect and the thanks to the officers who have stepped up and been fantastic in both their posts, and puts them and us in the best position as we move forward into a new unitary. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak? Councillor Wotton, would you like to come back? Sorry, Councillor Newport. Sorry, I didn't see your hand. I do apologise.
Just quickly, Chairman, very happy to support the appointment of the strategic director. I think he's an excellent. They're an excellent officer, and the council's making a really good decision if it passes.
Lovely comment. Well done, Councillor Wotton.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very pleased to second Councillor Vilma Wilson's proposal as a member of the Appointments Committee, and support both recommendations 1, 2 and 3 because there's 2 people involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Wilson, would you like to say anything further and sum up? Thank you.
Nothing to add, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, there's 3 recommendations. Is everybody okay if we take these on block? Wonderful. The recommendations are on page 6. Unless anybody raises their hand, I'm going to take it that you can see them in front of you so we know what we're voting on. Yep, wonderful. So all in favour, please. Thank you, members, and that's unanimous. Moving swiftly on, item 7, Corporate Peer Challenge Review. Follow-up outcome letter. The report starts on page 23 of the agenda. May I invite the leader of the council to introduce the report and to move the recommendations?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I was going to say, yeah, here we go. Just in case. Thank you. Okay, so the peer review undertaken in February, I believe, provided strong and reassuring feedback for us all, residents, members and staff, highlighting clear progress with a positive trajectory for the council. The peer team, who were the same group that conducted the initial challenge, recognised the significant improvements made during a period of continued organisational change and praised the professionalism, resilience and commitment of staff in maintaining focus on delivery throughout this period. The review acknowledged a clearer sense of direction, stronger leadership grip and growing confidence across the organisation, concluding that the council is moving in the right direction and is well placed to build on recent improvements. So thank you to all those involved, particularly staff, who have enabled this council to be in such a positive position, ready for not just the next few years, but also LGR and whatever opportunities that provides. I'm therefore happy to move recommendations 1 and 2 on pages 23 and 24.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? It's Councillor Mrs Wilson. Would you like to speak or save the right?
I'd like to reserve the right, please, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, it's now open to debate. Would anybody like to raise any questions? Talk on this item? No. Okay. So it's straight back to... Councillor Webb. Oh, you're being cheeky there, aren't you? Just delaying tactics.
Sorry, Chairman, just delaying for a few moments. Thank you. I'd just like to draw members' attention to 3.1. The new leader and administration have significantly improved collaborative working, contributing to a more constructive culture and more unified political direction. I'd just like to recognise the excellent work this year that we've seen taking place within this council, and to thank the leader and deputy leader for all that they've done this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Another nice comment. Mike could go off though, please. Thank you. Anybody else like to talk on this item? So, Councillor Mrs Wilson, if you have anything further to add.
Nothing to add to this positive report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And again, Councillor Mrs Belton, have you anything to add?
Nothing to add, thank you, Chair.
So, members, we have two recommendations on page 7. Again, trusting that you have the papers in front of you. Are you happy to take those two items on block? Wonderful. So, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you, members. That is unanimous. Item 8, Capital Investment Strategy 2026-27. The report starts on page 47 of the agenda. I again invite the leader of the council to introduce the report and to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have anything to add to the report other than thank you to the team for pulling it together, and I'm happy to move recommendation 1 on page 48. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Mrs Wilson, thank you very much. Would you like to speak on the item?
Not at the moment, Chair. I reserve the right again.
Thank you. Members, would anybody like to comment, ask a question? It's open to debate. No, then I'm going straight back to you, Councillor Mrs Wilson, if there's anything you would like to say.
Nothing to add.
Councillor Mrs Belton.
Nothing to add, thank you, Chair.
Do apologise, it is the procedure. So, recommendation 1, which is on page 48 of the report. Is everybody in favour? Please raise your hand. Thank you, members. All those against, please raise your hand. All those abstaining, please raise your hand. Thank you, members. So, members, that's 21 for the recommendation, 9 against. That motion is carried. Thank you. I do apologise. You're quite right, and I'm going to say that again. 21 for, 9 abstained. Thank you. Agenda item 9, supporting care leavers, Rochester District Council's pledge. The report starts on page 109 of the agenda. I again invite the leader of the council to introduce the report and move the recommendations.
God, my quads are getting a workout this evening, Chair. Thank you. First of all, my thanks to officers for bringing this forward to us and for the work that's gone into it. A few years ago, Councillor Julie Gooding and I supported Equal People's Performing Arts with their Christmas initiative for adult care leavers, providing dinners, presents and perhaps most importantly, company. Seeing firsthand, you realise just how much of a difference even small acts of support can make to young people navigating what is often a very lonely transition into adulthood. Care leavers, typically aged 16 to 25, face challenges that many of us will never fully understand, from securing stable accommodation to accessing employment, education and emotional support. Whilst Essex County Council rightly holds the statutory responsibility, I strongly believe Rochford District Council has a vital role to play in stepping up where we can. This report sets out a practical, compassionate approach from a single point of contact to support with housing, employment, leisure and parking, all underpinned by a clear pledge. These are not grand gestures, but they are meaningful ones, and collectively they can genuinely change outcomes. We've shown before that we can act as a strong and supportive corporate guardian. This pledge is about fairness, dignity and giving young people the best possible start in life. I am therefore pleased to move the recommendations on page 109. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Mrs Wilson. Would you like to speak on the item, Mrs Wilson?
Yes, just very quickly, Chair, if I may. I just am really pleased that this has come forward to Council today. In a previous life, I had experience of care leavers and fully appreciate the absolute difficulties that they go through to try to not just navigate bureaucracy, but actually at that stage in their life to navigate life as well. I think what we're asking the Council to do today is just a really spectacular piece of work. And by seeking approval by all members, we are able to demonstrate this, not just to our residents, but more importantly, to our young people. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Wilson. I'm now opening this item up to debate. Councillor Hoy, you wish to speak on this item?
Thank you, Chairman. I think it'll be no surprise that I will support this. My request, however, is that we have seen motions like this come forward before to this council. I've actually raised one of them in a meeting with the senior leadership team previously around the fostering one. They come forward and then we hear nothing. We don't get a report back. Can I just request that we have a report back in a year's time to see what difference this has made, please?
Thank you, Councillor Hoy, and I'm sure that that's absolutely possible. Yes, thank you. Councillor Squires-Coleman.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to thank you for bringing forward this. I recognise the wide range of work the Council delivers, but this is a proposal I find especially heartening. I welcome what is set out and would like to ask a question. On page 116 at the very top, it mentions housing for those with local connections. Can I ask what exactly that means?
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Belton, would you like to answer that question? Thank you.
In regards to those care leavers with a local connection to Rochford, it will be in line with the housing policy. So just ensuring that those people in line with our housing policy get that hand-holding experience through the process as opposed to just joining a queue like other people.
I hope that answers your question.
Can I just clarify, in line with the policy, so those with, say, family in the district but live outside the district, they won't be able to avail themselves of this. Is this correct?
So every case would be looked at on a case-by-case with specifics, but our general housing policy is they have to have resided within Rochford district for 5 years or work here, so that is the current housing policy. So if they're leaving care within Rochford, they will be supported through that process so they can retain within Rochford rather than going into a wider system.
Right, lovely, thank you.
If it's okay, could I ask that there's a written response put together for that question? It's just that I really appreciate what you're asking there, Councillor Mrs Squires-Coleman, and often we will have people ask us, residents ask us, so it would be quite helpful to have a written response, if that's okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this item, raise a question? Okay then, members, we have got 2 recommendations on page 109. Again, are you happy to take them on block? Thank you very much, members. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you, members. That is unanimous. Agenda item 10, review of statement of licensing policy under the Licensing Act 2003. The report starts on page 119 of the agenda. I would like to invite the Chairman of Licensing and Regulatory Committee, Councillor Arthur Williams, to introduce the report and move the recommendations.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, the Licensing Act 2003 requires local councils review their statement of licensing policy every 5 years. A reviewed policy has been prepared and has been subject to public consultation, which was considered by the Licensing and Regulatory Committee on the 24th of November 25. This report that is before you seeks to adopt this final policy.
Although unable to be conditioned, I am pleased to report that adoption of best practice and schemes such as Ask for Angela be considered by the applicants as per Appendix A. Members, I therefore propose that recommendation R1 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Mr Wilson, Mr Ian Wilson, thank you very much. Would you like to speak on the item or reserve your right?
No, I'll reserve my right for later, thank you.
Thank you. Members, it's now open to debate. Would anybody like to speak on this item? Councillor Mr Wilson, I'm going to come straight back to you.
Well, I'd just like to say that all this report really does is bring our policy in line with government requirements. So it should really just go through without any real effort at all, but I would ask the members to vote for it, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mr Williams, do you have anything else to add to wind up? Thank you. Therefore, the recommendation, members, is on page 119. It is there in front of you to adopt the final revised statement of licensing policy as in Appendix A with immediate effect. All those in favour, please. Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Stanley and Councillor Sutton for giving you a nudge. Okay, members, moving on. Item 11, Renters' Rights Act 2025. The report starts on page 205 of the agenda and page 3 of the supplementary agenda. I invite the Chairman of Communities Wellbeing Housing Committee, Councillor Webb, to introduce the report and to move the recommendations. Councillor Webb.
Thank you, Chairman. This didn't actually come to the Communities Committee. I believe this came to the Strategy, Finance and Policy Committee.
Councillor Mrs Belton, would you take the lead on this one and recommend it? Thank you.
I did wonder. I just thought Councillor Webb was doing me a favour because I've been up and down all night. Sorry, I've just put a locket in my mouth as well because I thought I had a break. I'm happy. There's nothing further to add. This is a big piece of work that has had to come forward at a relatively fast pace. Paul Brace and the team have done everything required to make sure that we remain compliant. It's an ongoing piece of work, and I am happy to move the recommendation 1 on page 206. I've got nothing else to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Now comes the exciting bit. Who would like to second this? I thought
Thank you, Madam
might.
Chairman. Can I second this, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Belton, do you have anything else to add? With your locket in your mouth? No. So, members, the recommendation is on page 206. And the recommendation reads that the Council approves the housing enforcement policy and civil penalties policy as detailed in the report. All those in favour? Thank you, members. That's unanimous. Moving swiftly on, item 12, Finchfield Trust. The report starts on page 289 of the agenda. Councillor Mrs Belton, I'd like to ask you to introduce the report.
Thank you. Again, the details are in the report. The Finchfield Trust is another complicated and complex piece of work that has spanned many, many years to try and get the correct structure in place for the benefit of those that reside within the properties. I don't have anything else to add at this time. I'm happy to move the recommendations. I believe they're the right thing for the Trust, for the properties and the people. So recommendations 1 to 4, page 290, I'm happy to move those.
Thank you. Could I invite a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Mrs Wilson. Would you like to speak on the item or reserve your right?
I will speak, Chair, if I may. Much as Councillor Belton said, the report is fairly straightforward, and I would like to ask the members to support this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm opening the item up for debate. Any members wish to speak on this item? Councillor Hoy.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I mentioned this one earlier, obviously in the debate around the Dutch Cottage. Again, I was asked by the previous chairman, Jack Lawman, to assist him and other councillors with this. This one is very different. This is very much, as I understood it, would be.
Straightforward.
And I am therefore very happy to support it.
Thank you. Any other member wish to speak? Councillor Belton, is there anything else you would like to say?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Therefore, you have on page 290 the 4 recommendations in front of you. Is everybody happy to take them on block? Wonderful, lovely. All those in favour? Thank you, members. That is unanimous. Item 14, motions on notice. Members, there is one motion on notice this evening. Can I briefly set out the procedure for dealing with this? I will invite the mover to introduce the motion. I will then invite the seconder to speak. They may reserve their right to do so until later in the debate. The matter will then be open up for debate. If any question arises from a member's speech, I will invite the mover of the motion to respond at the end of the member's speech. At the end of the debate, the mover of the motion will be asked to wind up before we take a vote. All speeches will have a time limit of 5 minutes. I will give an indication when there is 30 seconds remaining. If we have any amendments moved, I will briefly outline the procedure for dealing with the amendment at that time. Motion 1 from the Leader of the Council, Councillor Danielle Belton. May I invite you to move your motion?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to move the motion. This is about an opportunity to strengthen the safeguards we have in place as a council. At its heart, this is about trust. As elected members, we're regularly in contact with residents, often at challenging or sensitive moments in their lives, and it's only right that we hold ourselves to the highest possible standards. Introducing basic DBS checks for all councillors is a simple, proportionate and sensible step. It brings us in line with expectations placed on many other public-facing roles, and indeed I'm sure many of us already hold them, and reflects the reality of the work we do in our communities every day. Most importantly, it helps to build public confidence, supports stronger safeguarding and offers reassurance to residents that those representing them are committed to transparency and accountability. This is about doing the right thing, setting the right example and continuing to put the safety and well-being of our communities first. The recommendations or the motion itself is set out on page 342. I won't read it all out. Members have had a chance to scrutinise it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. May I invite a seconder? Councillor Mrs Wilson, would you like to speak?
Yes, Chair, I would like to speak now. Thank you for the opportunity. Just like to say with this motion that I agreed that basic DBS checks for all councillors is actually very appropriate. Many councillors in the UK already undergo this basic check. Whilst not mandatory, it will, however, give our residents confidence that we are suitable for our role. For example, West Sussex have historically required all new members to have a standard check, whilst others, like Sandwell Council, carry out basic checks within 3 months of election. I personally see no reason why undertaking these checks for all members is an issue, and I ask for supporting this motion on notice. Thank you. I think this will give all of our residents the reassurance and the confidence that that they possibly will need to know that we are fit for purpose, and I think we're setting a really good example. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mrs Wilson. So I'm opening the item for debate. Councillor Hoy, you'd like to speak.
Thank you. Very briefly, a couple of points, well, 1 point, and just a clarification. I don't really have a problem with this. I'm DBS checked for Essex County Council. I think it's fairly standard, as it said, upper tiers anyway for this. I think Councillor Mrs Wilson did answer the question I'm going to ask, but I'd like the legal advice if possible. This is not compulsory, is it? Because it says an expectation. So presumably we're just expecting councillors to do this, but they don't have to.
Thank you. Who would like to answer that one? It's not compulsory, is it?
I think that's right, Chair. It's not compulsory. It is an ask of councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm amazed this has not been here before. I was a governor, school governor. I know many here are probably school governors, and I had to have a mandatory DBS. And I'm also a chairman of the RAF Cadets, and I have to have an extended one for the MOD as well as a normal one, and it's mandatory. Now, I know we're saying it's voluntary at the moment, but that seems a bit strange, to be honest. It's always seemed strange. We've never had one here because of what we do and how we interact with children, how we interact with adults of special needs or whatever. So it's amazed me that we've never bought this before. I'm pleased we're doing it because it seems sensible and reasonable, but the voluntary bit doesn't quite cut it with me, I must admit, because in every other organisation where I've had to have a DBS, it's mandatory. So I don't know where we go on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. I think if you look up, it depends on what and the length of time that you are with vulnerable people or children, so that it's probably based on that. I've got Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reiterate what I did when I first joined the council is to keep the council in good standards and acknowledge where I stand. I totally agree that we could do a DBS check on all councillors. In fact, I had one earlier, many years ago, I know, not since I've been on the council, but before that. I've got no objection to it at all. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor Sutton.
Thank you. I actually agree with Councillor Ward on this. I'd like to see it as a mandate. And just on an admin point of view, is it going to be the councillors' financial responsibility to, as a council, covering that? And also, those councillors that already do have an enhanced DBS, are they able to use those? Thank you.
Both good questions. Anybody able to answer that one?
Thank you, Chair. Those points will be considered as part of the policy when it comes back again to Council for consideration. Thank you.
Are you happy with that answer? Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Councillor Mr Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I applaud moving towards DBS. There are a number of things. I worked for the Home Office in a previous existence, so I know that there are certain roles where it's mandatory to do DBS. I don't believe it is for councillors. I don't know how you could introduce that. I don't think a council could do that on their own. The other thing is that the DBS check itself is not a silver bullet because it's frozen at a moment in time. So unless you go for the DBS update service, you don't know whether today I might be clear on my DBS, tomorrow I might be, well. And if any of you are in Basildon, if you're in Basildon Crown Court tomorrow, you might see why. Thanks.
Cut while you're ahead there, Councillor Wilson. But you've raised a very good point there. Perhaps that could be looked at policy because there is the live option. So if members aren't aware of it, if you were to be called in by the police or arrested for something, it will be flagged up with the council. Anybody else wishing to debate? Oh, sorry, Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Chair. I've listened with intrigue this evening to this discussion. So I'm just wondering, if it is voluntary and one chooses not to do it, is there a public record that our residents can see who has chosen to have their DBS, and so they can feel confident, are absolutely safe in their home, and those that haven't? Thank you.
again, that could be added within the policy, could it not?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, again, that's something that we would consider as part of the policy, whether that information is published.
I will speak on this item. There is one consideration that you could possibly think. You have several parties here, unless you're independent like myself, but I will be DBS. Perhaps parties could be encouraged to bring it in with their candidates as they come through, the councillors. It's something that they could enforce, perhaps, with them. Anybody else want to speak on this one? Councillor Stuart Wilson.
Sorry, Chair. Can I just say one thing? That whatever we introduce, we must make sure it falls within the legislation. We can't make this up on the hoof of what we might wish. So to safeguard the council, I'd say stick inside the law.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak on this item? Okay, so all those in favour... Oh, sorry, Councillor Mrs Belton, you're quite right. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to say thank you to members for the debate. Totally agree with what I've heard. I think it should be mandatory, but I think we have to work within the legislation that councils are allowed, and that's why the motion came forward in this guise. But I would support the strengthening of any policy that comes around it, and the fact that members seem to be largely in favour as a concept is a positive step forward to ensuring that we can get that outcome that we're all comfortable with and that our residents can feel assured. So it will be one for the legal team, but obviously a piece of work that seems to have support. So thank you, members.
Thank you. All those in favour of the motion? That is unanimous, members. So that is the final item for this evening's meeting, the last of this municipal year. I would just like to give my heartfelt thanks to you all for your support during this year, and I wish you all good luck. If you're standing again, if you're standing down, enjoy the retirement. Thank you, members.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Chair of the Council, Councillor Joe McPherson, the Vice Chair of the Council, Councillor Simon Wootton, the Chief Executive, Jonathan Stevenson.